all scripted. Do you ever see the movie Wag the
That's
Dog?
cool. No, I heard of it, but I haven't
Okay.
seen it. No.
It's
I'm actually probably
so
gonna watch that now tonight.
perfect. It's so perfect. To me, that's real. They want you to think it's a movie, but it's really
Yep.
what's happening.
Well, I hear there's all these stories about how he had voices in his head and all this sort of stuff. And I want to show you something very, very frightening that I found
Okay.
because I've heard everyone hears about these stories about voice to skull technology.
Mhm, mhm,
It's sort of like, oh, we can plant your own voice inside
mhm.
your own head. And
Right.
there's been a bunch of kooky characters over the years that have made claim to this technology existing, but
Mhm.
because they're such kooky characters,
Right.
the information hasn't gone anywhere. They're usually selling a book or they're up something, and it's like, oh, okay, could you just tell us a story without selling something, please? However,
But
we found
didn't they use it in the Iraq war?
we don't. Well, how do
'Cause
we
I
know?
yeah,
How do we
I was
know?
thinking there was a government, disclosure on it, but I could be wrong. Because I felt like there was that
Really?
one piece that we had, but I wasn't positive. I've talked to many people that
Possibly.
think that it's happening to them. But
Yeah, right. Because there's a video that might validate what they're saying here.
okay.
Because there's a guy, and I've never seen this in action before. I've only heard it described, and it sounds
Mhm,
plausible in description.
mhm.
So I wasn't writing it off as a possibility.
Sure.
But there is a university professor, I think it is, college professor, and where is my sorry, I've got like 6 screens in front of me. So
It's like my son, he always has this big
yeah.
display with all of his stuff.
Yeah, I've got like 6 and then that lights everywhere above it. It's actually quite a cool setup. And while I I tweeted a few days about how I found it interesting how just a few days after Kamala Harris started tweeting about an assault weapon ban renewal,
Right.
there's a mass shooting in Maine. Yeah, interesting that, huh? And now this guy here, I'm going to share screen, present. Oh, is it already there? I'll remove that.
I'm excited to see it.
Present. Oh, stop screen and then present. What tab is that? Info W. Yeah, here we go. Picture this. A professor, a true maestro of sound waves, has concocted a musical marvel that's silent to the ear but rings loud and clear in your noggin. The
Wow.
scene of this sonic spectacle, none other than a college campus, where I'm told an Eagles classic took center stage. Just imagine the students' faces, stunned, bewildered, and utterly bamboozled. Now, if a college professor can pull off this auditory illusion with just a couple of $100 and a dream, it really makes you wonder what kind of high flying acts could Uncle Sam be orchestrating behind
Oh,
closed
yeah.
doors? Voice of God sounds like a headline straight out of my news desk. Now, let's have a look at this. It took me a little bit while to understand what was happening at first
Okay.
because I didn't actually read the description. I just went straight for my ADHD went straight for the movie thing.
I'm right there with you. That's why
Yeah.
I'm always moving around and drinking my drink and
Yeah, go for the sparkly thing. What does that do? So let's have it. So it took me a minute. I was watching about halfway through, and I'm like, this is boring. I'm like, oh. So like, guys, if you're watching, if you don't get it, just keep watching, and it'll make sense.
So we can't hear this. It's going. I haven't turned it on yet. When I do, it's going to blast out a 65 kilohertz beam. Because the wavelength is so small, it doesn't spread. Because 65 kilohertz has a wavelength like that. So it's going to be, in that sense, similar to a laser. It just comes right out as a beam. Now, how do we make that audible? Well, they put a modulation on top of the 65 kilohertz. There's a modulation. And now, here's the next thing I have to tell you. That 65 kilohertz is very high amplitude. It won't hurt you, we don't think. Okay? You certainly can't hear it, and we don't think it'll hurt you. And it's very high amplitude. And what happens when you have two sound waves like this, sound plus sound can create sound, but only at high amplitude. At low amplitude, sound waves just travel right through each other. You may be sort of familiar with this. But at high amplitude, you can create sound. So what happens in this apparatus is
And he
the
demonstrates
audio sound, the sound that you're going to hear, is actually created in the beam, not here.
source.
And because it's created in the beam and it stays in the beam, we have a beam of sound. So let me demonstrate this for you. Let me
So essentially, I'll pause that for a sec. He's saying we can broadcast from this speaker into the target, and it's not audible from the speaker or anywhere in transition. It's
Yeah.
the only place it's audible is at the destination target. And here he fires it up.
turn it on.
Watch the students' faces.
And I'm going to find the piece of music that we like.
Yeah.
You may not like it.
The Eagles. You like the Eagles? Okay, good. Oh, we have a friendly audience this year.
Not like the Eagles.
I think they're just saying it to make us feel better.
Right. All right.
Sorry about the bad quality.
It's worth the $2,000. It's not our money. Now, the sound that you're hearing is being created in this beam. It almost sounds like it's coming from your head. So let me try to scan the whole audience here so everybody gets to hear this.
He can't stand it.
Absolutely remarkable. Pete, are you getting it? Let's try to, one more thing. Let's try to bounce it off the wall. Raise your hand if you can very clearly hear it. I'm going to try to bounce it off the wall. Look at where the hands are raised. It's
Wow. I mean, it's hard to obviously validate what's going on there because
Right.
we aren't the students.
We can't know.
They are
Right.
hearing. But it's very clear from the reaction of these kids and that the professor there, he seems very genuine. That's something that's really going on, that he's capable of pulling that off with a few $100 and a little
Yes.
do-like thing, like in a college campus. So imagine what DARPA and the Uncle Sam has got up their sleeve. You know what I mean?
And every Navy
This-
SEAL I know says we're 20 years behind knowing what they're capable of, at least.
Yeah, I hear it's 20 years, 50 years. Some people even say, oh, no, we're 100 years behind. Oh, hold on. I don't know. But we are certainly behind in terms of what we have in the domestic market compared to what they have military capability. They are certainly decades ahead. And we know this now from back, like when we've got historical footage back from lunar missions and stuff like that are in full high definition. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Full high definition because the camera equipment that they used back then was so good. Also, film was it's a little bit tricky because film was always a superior thing. But they've always had just the best stuff. And so I just sort of like when I saw that clip.
Yeah, that's really interesting.